let's give it a go. Oh yeah, easy done. Let's go through this bumpy section here. Oh, bit of rotation there around. And yeah, I mean, these tires are pretty muddy from a long day of doing this course, I'll be honest. Oh. That's why you need a steel bash plate. Makes me look like a short king, as they say. If I pull this here, I can lift up the whole rear seat bench. Hey guys, how cool is this? I am lucky enough to be one of the first people in Australia to drive the all-new Kia Tasman off-road here in Australia in beautiful, wherever the hell we are, New South Wales. So what I'm gonna be doing is taking you through all of the cool off-road tech and spec that you get with this top-of-the-range X-Pro trim of the Tasman. I'm gonna be doing, of course, a full exterior tour and an interior tour. I mean, you haven't seen the Tasman enough. We gotta look at it some more. I know it's a bit of an eyesore from the front, guys, but bear with me. I'm gonna be talking about all of the mechanics, all of the hardware, all of the suspension, everything you need to know about the all-new Tasman and how it stacks up against things like the Ranger, the Triton, the D-Max, the Hilux. It is a pretty stacked segment here in Australia, and I'm lucky enough to be here with a pre-production version of the Tasman. This thing here is about 90% cooked, 90% of the way there as to how it will be when it does arrive in a couple of months' time in Australia. And then, of course, I'm going to end on my final thoughts. How do I think the Tasman is going to stack up when it does arrive? Let's get straight into it. Okay, guys, let's get into pricing now for the Tasman. Now, of course, we do have full pricing across all the 5 different model grades broken down on our website. If you guys want to read a full in-depth article, that is live now on CarSauce.com. But suffice it to say, this range does start with a 4x2 S variant, which is $42,990 before on-road costs. Then the base 4x4 is $49,990 before on-road costs. However, if you jump all the way to the top, you do get the X-Pro, which comes with all of the kit and caboodle for off-roading, and that is going to run you $74,990 before on-road costs. So definitely not cheap. They are angling this to compete with the Ford Ranger Wildtrak, and yeah, that is some stiff competition. So of course, we're going to be scrutinizing the hell out of this thing and seeing does it live up to that insanely high standard. So first, let's talk about the way this thing looks. Now, this has been a big topic of division. We've made a couple of videos about the Kia Tasman already, and I actually saw this car for the first time back last August when it was revealed to global media in South Korea. I was there on a trip looking at the EV3, and I remember when they revealed this car, they took off the curtain, there was a bit of a collective groan. And I'll be honest, guys, it still doesn't look quite right to me. The headlights are a little bit too far apart. I'm not a huge fan of the way they wrap around and integrate with the fender flares. However, after spending a couple of days with the car, I have to say it is actually starting to grow on me. It definitely doesn't look right from the front still, and I think if you stick a bull bar on it, it looks even worse, to be honest. But from the back and the side, it actually looks pretty damn good. But of course, that is my opinion, so let me know if I'm just barking up the wrong tree down in the comments below. I could be completely wrong, but that's the thing about opinions. I don't care. So let's talk about the way it looks. I love this new Kia logo. It looks so cool blacked out there, and it looks really nice with this bonnet flare up here. You get an absolutely massive grille that goes, you know, extends from what should be the headlights to the other what should be the headlights, but it's just a black decal. Then if you take another step back, you get the actual headlights. They are really good, to their credit. Nice LED units. They do wrap around with the fender flares, like I said, but we're gonna move on from that. Another thing you'll notice, you do get your front-facing camera there. This thing does come with a really good 360 camera, which is also utilized by that off-road trail camera system that allows you to see where the wheels are going. Very useful feature there. And down below, we actually do get a steel bash plate. That's good to see. One thing I will point out, that front windshield is very, very vertical. So if rocks do skip up, I'd be worried about it cracking the windshield just because they're not going to be able to bounce off as easily. And also from the front of the vehicle, you're going to really notice just how goddamn tall this thing is. It's pretty imposing on the road. And if you look at it parked next to something like a Mitsubishi Triton, it makes the Triton look like a baby. And in fact, it is about 35 mil taller than a Ford Ranger at 1.9 meters in height. Makes me look like a short king, as they say. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the front. Let's check out the side. So coming around to the side here, yeah, you can really see how these headlights wrap around, and I'd be worried about that for off-roading because you might just damage them. And yeah, you can buy headlight protectors, but why should you need to do that anyway? Have a look at the way that this thing slopes down, and that is actually what gives this, the X-Pro, class-leading approach angles. So 32.2 degrees is what they claim. It also gets a ground clearance of 252 millimeters, which is 18 mil higher than a Ford Ranger Wildtrak. This thing will come with all-terrain tires. Now, this car does come with Continental rubber. However, the OEM tires that will come with the X-Pro are going to be the Hankook Extreme All-Terrain tires. So that's the ones they selected. However, these will be the wheels, and they are 17-inch wheels on this model. And like I said, you do get the all-terrain rubber. These are fitted with 265 70s. You could probably put up to like 34s on this thing, and I reckon it would look pretty damn mean. But let's talk about the suspension setup at the front. So you do get a double wishbone setup, which does come with frequency selective dampers as well. Unfortunately, no front locking diff across the range of the Tasman. It's something they've opted to not include, basically saying that our software for traction control is going to do the job better. And frankly, I believe them. It actually does a really good job, but we'll get back to that. So this isn't based on the Mojave that people were suspecting it would be based on. This is an all new ladder frame construction, an all new platform built specifically for this car. Now, of course, pre-production spec, we don't know for sure if this is going to come with side steps, but I really hope it does, because this thing is, like I said, the ground clearance is quite high. Of course, you do get 360 camera there, blacked out mirror caps, and you also get some really solid metal roof rails. And can you see how high that is? I can barely reach. My God, I feel like a small child. Keyless entry and go, of course, that's really cool. Super tinted privacy glass at the rear. And the wheel arches are actually useful because if I press this button, I can actually open them up and I get a little bit of storage space. Admittedly, not too much storage space, but at least you get it. All right. Let's check out the back and talk about towing. So towing is a pretty good story for the Tasman. Obviously, they know what buyers expect in this segment, so they've opted for a 3.5 ton towing capacity. It also comes with a payload of 1,124 kilos if you do opt for the two-wheel drive base S trim. This one, the X-Pro four-wheel drive, does have a payload closer to 1,000 kilos. Now, you can get it rated at below 1,000 kilos if you want to. Kia will do that for you, and that allows you to get the tax incentives for fleet vehicles. Interesting little life hack there if you didn't know. The Tasman also has a gross vehicle mass of 3,250 kilos, as well as a gross combination mass of 6,200 kilos across the range. But it's actually got some extra features that make towing even more convenient than it would already be. Now, this thing does have a tow mode, and what you can do is set up profiles for different trailers, and it will configure the trailer braking, as well as the ADAS systems to be correctly configured to brake properly with that trailer. There are also 3 different braking modes, 3 different weight modes that you can use with towing, and they've also upgraded the cooling system for the transmission oil, so you do get air-cooled transmission oil cooling, as well as a larger fan for the cooling system. So Kia take towing pretty damn seriously for the Tasman. But let's talk about the rest of the rear of this vehicle, because I actually think this is my favorite angle of this car. You do get these really cool LED taillight designs. I think they actually look a lot better than the headlights at the front, to be honest. You do get Kia debossed there into the rear. You also get Tasman spelt out here in the cool black lettering. You do get a little step here to access your tub, which we will get into a bit later. You do also get your reversing camera and a massive brake light here at the back. What you can't see is under the vehicle, you do get a full-size spare wheel that is standard across the range, and it will match whatever tire you have fitted to the vehicle. And in this top of the range trim, you do get a mechanically locking rear diff that is manually locking. So if you are going to be doing some pretty serious off-roading, that is really good to have. The other trims do get a mechanically locking diff, but it is more of a reactive system that will react to loss of traction rather than a proactive system like this one where you can actually just lock the diff. This thing also has pretty much segment leading departure angle as well, because it is minimal in terms of its overhang, so it will get a 26.2 degree departure angle at the rear. All right, let's check out what it can fit inside of itself. So if I open this up, you can see we actually do get gas struts, which is definitely good to see. You do get tub liner as standard, which is good to see. You also interestingly get 5 cup holders and 9 iPhone holders on the tub, just in case you need that with all your workmates. You also get a 400 watt household socket in the back there, as well as adjustable tie down points. And you can of course option things like a roll top tonneau cover. There are going to be close to 70 accessories available on the Tasman, so you can really rig it up. So the tub is 1,512 millimeters long, which is definitely longer than the Ford Ranger. You also get 1,572 millimeters in width, which is significantly wider than the Ford Ranger, as well as 1,186 mil between the wheel arches. All right, that's enough about towing and tub space. Let's talk about what powers this thing. So a lot of people have been talking about the powertrain of the Kia Tasman, and rightly so, because it is an interesting story. It is a little bit underpowered and under-torqued in my opinion. However, the way it has been explained to me and my experience driving it has kind of changed my opinion somewhat, so I'll explain that here today. Now, it is a 2.2 litre turbo diesel powertrain, so it does put out 154 kilowatts of power, 440 Newton meters of torque. Now, that is somewhat comparable to the bi-turbo 4-cylinder in the Ford Ranger, which does put out 154 kilowatts of power as well, except that thing makes 500 Newton meters of torque. And that's not to mention the V6 powertrain on the Wildtrak, for example, which puts out 600 Newton Newton meters of torque. But Kia say it's not about the peak torque, it's about the torque band, how long it can stay towards the peak torque for, and that's what's really going to help with things like towing and off-roading. So the closest powertrain I would probably compare this to would be the 3-litre 4-cylinder 4JJ3 of the Isuzu D-Max, which actually gets slightly less power than this, 140 kilowatts of power, 450 Newton meters of torque. So this thing kind of sits in between the Isuzu D-Max engine and the Ford Ranger bi-turbo engine. And of course, given that this is a pre-production car and we can't drive it on the road today, it's difficult to make up my mind about what I think about this engine. For all intents and purposes, it got the job done in our off-road track, but we'll have to just wait and see how it drives on the road. Now, it is mated to an 8-speed automatic torque converter transmission, which gets the job done. I think, to be honest, I would rather have 8 gears in this than 10 gears in a Ford Ranger, but that's just me. So if I had to summarize my thoughts on the Tasman powertrain at this point in time, I would say it's a solid, although unimpressive powertrain. But let's check out the interior. Alrighty guys, coming to the interior now of the Kia Tasman. Wow. First things first, one of the coolest things you'll notice when you hop in here are these air vents. They're this really cool hexagonal design, and when I move them, I don't know, that is just super cool to me. That's not the only cool thing in here though, because wow, the setup is incredible. 2 massive 12.3-inch displays. You do get your climate controls sandwiched in between them. That is the classic new, I guess I shouldn't say classic, it's the new Kia design language that we're seeing on some of their new EVs, like the EV3 and EV9. Speaking of tech, this infotainment display, I mean, it is so snappy, so responsive. I would say class leading in terms of technology in this cabin for the dual cab ute segment. Let's talk about practicality and storage. This is pretty basic, this glove box. You do get a little storage area up here, which is nice and rubber coated, so things don't rattle around. On this spec, the X-Pro, you do get 2 Qi wireless chargers, which work really well, a couple of USB-C ports, a couple of cup holders down there, and underneath this nice textured armrest here, we also get, oh, check that out, a little storage area there, and if we open up on this side, we get a massive storage area there with a 12-volt socky-wocky, and we also get some pretty decent-sized door bins as well. So practicality-wise, technology-wise, it's really good. Then in terms of comfort and materials, I mean, these seats are super nice. And apparently these seats were designed specifically for the Australian market. So that is really cool. Like normally you see maybe a local tune, local ride and handling. No, we get local seats as well. That is awesome. They are heated and ventilated on this trim, and of course electrically adjustable in just about a million different ways with lumbar support as well, so no issues there. I do love this squirkly steering wheel. It did take me a little bit of getting used to the other day, but I think it looks really cool. It's a nice design. You do get your drive mode selector there, so you have 4 modes: eco, normal, sport, and my drive. Then you've also got your terrain modes as well, so you've got snow, mud, sand, and rock on this X-Pro mode. Then you also have your extra off-road cruise control modes, which are down here. So here you have your X-Trek controller. There's 5 different speed options you can use for trail driving, and it even works uphill as well, which is super cool. Then you also have your 4-wheel drive transfer case. You also get a couple of other really cool nifty features here. So you do get your trailer controls here. Now this thing does have a towing mode, and what you can actually do is you can set up different trailer profiles that you can then select depending on what you're towing. Now we also have our off-road command center, so we can open it up. It does a cool little animation and it shows us all kinds of stuff like our oil pressure, battery voltage, oil temperature, transmission temperature, the pitch, the roll, the camber of the wheels, how far you've turned the steering wheel, tire pressure, and you also can use your surround camera to get an underbody view while you are off-roading. That is a really useful feature for placing the wheels on trickier trails, so that's good to see, and that's kind of something that we're coming to expect now from off-road dual cab utes. A couple of other cool things: you do get your trailer brake controller here, and it's good to see that it is an OEM fitted trailer brake controller. No redarcs here. We get the or redarc. Redarc, I don't know. Tell me in the comments if I'm saying that wrong. There's some more stuff I really like. For example, the materials in the cabin. This is all hard, scratchy, but you kind of want it down there. Up here though, it feels nice and quality, smooth. You do get some softer materials up here. You also get your heated seat and heated steering wheel controls over there, and the ambient lighting in the interior looks fantastic. Now, one thing you will notice about me sitting in here, and this is not just because I'm a short king, even though I am, is that this bloody roof is so high. Sitting in here, it just feels absolutely massive to the ceiling, and the space in here just feels really quite large as well. I think that's pretty much it for the front seats. Let's check out the back seats. Alrighty guys, before we hop in the back, you got to check this out. So if I pull this here, I can lift up the whole rear seat bench, and you actually get a decent amount of storage space underneath there. Quite a bit, really. Honestly, like a lot. Now, if I pull this forward, I also get a little bit of storage area behind, but not a whole lot. So let's get in now, see how comfortable this is. I love this little grab handle here. It's grippy and solid thonk. There is plenty of legroom, plenty of tow room too, and headroom is just as good as up front. Now, another cool thing you can do back here, which is a feature of the top of the range, is if I pull this little lever here, I can slide it back and it actually reclines the rear seats. How good is that? I've never seen reclining rear seats in a ute. That is really, really cool. And I also don't sacrifice too much legroom. Like, I still have enough space to move my legs around, and oh man, this is really comfy. Guys, these seats are super nice, soft leather. I love this feeling of the material here. If I also fold down this center section, you can see I do get a couple of cup holders, a little phone storage area, and another storage area in front. It is also nice, soft leather. Now, I haven't seen this before. This is pretty cool. I actually get a little Kia zipper here, and if I unzip it, there you go. We get our little mat pocket there with this kind of like wetsuit material. I believe that is waterproof, so that's something new. I like that, actually. And then I also get a smaller pocket up here for things like phones, or if I have an iPad, I want to stick it up there, watch a movie, I can kind of do that. That is pretty cool. I really like how the air vents extend to the rear as well. Big fan of that. You also get a 240 volt household socket, up to 400 watts. That is serious wattage in the rear seats of the Tasman. You can also plug into one of these two USB-C ports, which are conveniently placed on the front seats. And this is a really cool Korean luxury feature. If I am sitting behind the front passenger, I can also get your seat out of the way. I love that. That's really cool. And I just noticed this, you get a little storage area down here for maybe another phone, a spare phone. And one thing I didn't mention up front that I'm actually a really big fan of are these door handles. They just feel solid and cool, you know? And it just feels so spacious back here. I'm honestly really impressed. But you know what else I'm impressed by? Us, CarSauce Buy. Guys, if you are in the market for a Kia Tasman or any brand new car for that matter, you have to check out CarSauce Buy. And that's because we have a massive dealership network of thousands of dealers across Australia. We literally make them fight to the death to get you the best price on your next car. So join our thousands of happy customers that have used the CarSauce Buy service. There's literally no reason not to. All right, it's time to drive this thing off-road. Rightio guys, we are driving the Kia Tasman. The first time I'm driving a Kia Tasman here in Australia. Now, I have seen the Kia Tasman before. Obviously, we've been through the full exterior interior tour, but now we get to take it off-road for the first time and see just how well it performs here in Australian conditions. Now, we do have pre-production vehicles currently. I do have to give that as a brief caveat because these aren't 100% what buyers will be receiving here in Australia, but they are a pretty good indication. They're, according to Graham, who does the local ride and handling tuning, they are 90% of the way there. And I have to say, I've already done a run out here before. I'm pretty impressed in the way these things perform, and let's get into it. So first of all, let's talk about the off-road specs. So you do get a 32.2 degree approach angle here in this top of the range X-Pro spec, which does come with the 17-inch all-terrain tires. Now, this car in particular is wearing the OEM spec tires, which you will receive on this trim, which are Hankook Dynapro AT2 Extreme all-terrain tires, and they are pretty decent for this kind of all-terrain. Now, I am in four-wheel drive auto just for this high range section, which will automatically modulate between 2 high and 4 high. But let's go through the rest of the specs. So it does get 252 mil of ground clearance, which is actually class leading. And that gives this thing a ramp breakover angle of around about 25.8 degrees and a departure angle of 26.2 degrees. So very impressive off-road numbers for the Tasman, at least in this X-Pro spec. So mechanically, this thing is built on an all-new ladder frame chassis. Oh, we're about to do a river crossing here. Let's just bloody send it. And we'll test out that 800 mil wade depth, which is also class leading, shared with the Ford Ranger. Oh, easy done. And we're still in 4Auto. You could literally drive straight off the highway into that river and not even have to change the motors. That's pretty impressive. Now, the suspension is a high mount front double wishbone suspension with frequency selective dampers and a hydraulic rebound stopper. Basically what that means is that I can send it through this river pretty quickly and it shouldn't bottom out. Let's give it a go. Oh yeah, easy done. Keep the throttle modulation nice and steady, and yeah, easy peasy. Now, I should mention that this X-Pro does come with a range of off-road modes. I have got it in auto here. You can also set it into things like snow, mud, sand, or even rock. This thing does get rock mode. Now at the rear, we do get a rigid axle, and it does come with leaf spring suspension. That's how you achieve an over 1 ton payload. And of course, that industry standard 3.5 ton towing capacity. I think, to be honest, I will switch into 4 low here just to make sure I make it out. So I'm gonna switch it to neutral, chuck it into 4 low. Engages actually really quickly. Now I will talk briefly about the rear diff on this X-Pro version, because this one gets a different version of a locking diff compared to the rest of the range. This is a proper proactive mechanically locking rear diff, and it is electronically controlled as well. So you should be able to do all kinds of hardcore off-roading that you would expect from a top of the range 4-wheel drive, and it should do it pretty damn well. Let's go through this bumpy section here. Oh, bit of rotation there around. And yeah, I mean, these tires are pretty muddy from a long day of doing this course, I'll be honest. And the course has also been eroded quite significantly. So it's definitely a little bit more challenging now, but gives us a good opportunity to test it out. And I'm actually using this surround camera view here, which is actually cool because it gives you a bit of an underbody view of the wheels and allows you to line up the wheels really easily with the track. So I'm not slipping and sliding all over the place. I can kind of just follow the main trail. Now, one last thing I want to talk about while I am driving this thing off-road is what they've achieved with the NVH and the comfort in here, because some dual cab utes, when you are taking them on this kind of trail, they can bump around, they can vibrate quite significantly. And let's demonstrate that by going over these rocks. Oh, that's why you need a steel bash plate. But because we do have the highest ground clearance, we didn't bottom out at all there, which is pretty good. Yeah, so back to the NVH, I am pretty impressed with how quiet it is in this cabin. Like, I'm not getting much noise through the tires, even though this is wearing all-terrain tires. It is relatively comfortable in here as well, and the vibrations are not really getting passed through into the cabin. Now, I guess part of that is due to the materials they've used on the interior and how goddamn comfortable these seats are. First impressions driving the Tasman, obviously pre-production, we haven't done on-road driving yet, so we can't fully tell how the dynamics are on the road. I'm pretty impressed with the way this thing drives off-road, but let's get into my final thoughts. So guys, I'm pretty impressed by the Kia Tasman overall. Now, obviously it is impossible to give my full final verdict given that this is a pre-production model. However, I drove a car that was pretty much South Korean domestic market spec, as well as a car that was 50% of the way here, and this car, which is about 90% of the way here. And I have to say, the guys at Kia, they do their magic with their local ride and handling tuning. This thing drives really well off-road. I was really impressed by the comfort on the interior, as well as the noise, vibration, and harshness levels inside. So do I think it will compete against the king of the segment, the Ranger Wildtrak V6? It is no secret that this 2.2 litre turbo diesel powertrain is a little bit underpowered when you consider things like the Ranger V6. However, they have designed the torque band to be quite responsive from low down in the revs, and I find that actually makes it a very easy car to live with and very suitable for the application of towing or off-roading. So it's only a matter of time before we get our hands on the full production spec and we can do our final thoughts on if we think this thing is going to dethrone the Ranger. But of course, as always, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Are you a fan of the new Kia Tasman? Is it going to be joining your shopping list for your next dual cab ute? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you are after a Kia Tasman or any new car for that matter, make sure you go to CarSauce Buy. Our team will help you out. Make sure you get the best price on your next car. Ciao for now.